This is The Civil Fleet, the podcast focused on the activist-led refugee rescue and support missions across Fortress Europe, with me, Ben Coles. In today's episode, we are speaking with Lucille, the Operations Communications Manager with SOS Mediterranee. She's going to tell us about a rescue she took part in March 2024. In that rescue, they found a boat with 25 people on floating in the Mediterranean. They found them by chance, but it turns out that boat had originally left from Libya 5 or 6 days ago with no water, with about 60 people on board. Most of those people did not survive. The survivors told Lucille and the rest of the crew on the Ocean Viking that they had been spotted by a plane and that they had seen ships come close to them, but no rescue had ever been launched. Interestingly, Frontex, which is the European Border and Coast Guard Agency, released a report in May that corroborates the stories of the survivors. It also says that its own actions, as well as the actions of the Libyan, Maltese and Italian Coast Guards, likely breached the fundamental right to life of those who died. So Lucille is going to tell us all about that in this episode. So Lucille, thanks for coming. Thank you very, very much for coming on the Civil Fleet podcast.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's my pleasure to be here today.
Excellent. And Lucille, you are with SOS. You work with SOS Mediterranee, which is one of the rescue ship organisations in the Mediterranean. We're going to talk about that later on. Today, we're mostly going to be talking about a rescue that occurred last March and some information that's come to light about Frontex's role and Italy. And we're going to talk about this case anyway. But before we get into it, I like to ask people on the podcast to tell us about themselves. So I don't know anything about you, Lucille. Sounds like you have a French accent, but I'm not sure. So could you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yes, so my name is Lucille, and as you heard, indeed, I have a French accent. I'm from the south of France originally. I live in Marseille, and I worked for SOS Mediterranee for nearly 3 years now. I work as responsible of communication for our organization, and I'm in charge of the mandate of testifying with my team. Our organization is doing search and rescue in the Central Mediterranean. Our mandate is to rescue, to protect, and to testify. And I have been working for nearly 2 years and a half on board the Ocean Viking, which is the rescue ship that we are operating currently in the Mediterranean Sea. And I was on board as a communication coordinator, so I was the person in charge of external communication, of testifying, and I am today working from shore, but I'm continuing to pursue this mission of testifying about what is happening in the Mediterranean Sea, in the high seas where no one can see what is happening, the human rights violation, and also the stories of the people that we rescue. We are trying to humanize these stories because unfortunately we are talking too much about numbers, too much about migrants, and our work is to try to make sure that these people are not reduced to numbers, but to people with stories and with hopes and with a past and hopefully a bright future.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really important to do, right? Not just to focus on people as numbers as they often are, particularly in the media, right? So yeah, that's really interesting. You've been there for 2 years and you're like the comms officer. And you kind of already did just tell us about SOS Mediterranee, but it's quite big. I know you have a big rescue ship, the Ocean Viking. But yeah, can you just tell us a little bit more, like when was it founded? Well, I think you're based in France, but actually I think you're a Europe-wide organisation. Can you tell us a bit more about the organisation?
Yes, so the organization was founded in 2015. First, it was a civilization, mobilization, so people like you and me gathering to try to shed light on what was happening in the Mediterranean Sea. And then finally in 2016 they started started operating a rescue ship that was called Aquarius. And then now we are operating since 2019 the Ocean Viking. So this organization was initially founded by a French woman and a German captain, Sophie Beau. She's initially a humanitarian worker, and she was very shocked when she saw what was happening in the Mediterranean Sea. So she partnered with a German captain who was he had this knowledge of the sea, and together they created SOS Mediterranee. As I said previously, the mandate is to rescue people at sea, but also to protect them, to bring them to a place of safety, and to testify. Because testifying it's very important for us in the sense that we are operating in a place where there is no one to see what is happening, and for us it's important that we can, of course, rescue these people, but we also need to bring light on what is happening, and hopefully also to have people accountable for what is happening, the authorities. And then we'll talk about this story later on the 13th of March 2024. But this is a perfect example on unfortunately what is happening in the Mediterranean when people are trying to cross the sea, and then authorities are aware, Frontex is aware, but no search and rescue operation are launched. And it's a civil ship like the Ocean Viking who will finally rescue the 25 remaining people. So yeah, this is the main work of SOS Mediterranee. We are based in France, but we are also working with, we are organized with other associations. One is in Germany, Italy, and Switzerland.
Ah, great. And I think the Aquarius ship had quite an interesting past as well. And I think did you used to work with the Doctors Without Borders? I think, right? Is that right? Or am I thinking of a different organization?
No, exactly. So the Aquarius, when we started, we had a partnership with Doctors Without Borders, and then when we lost the Aquarius, and then we started chartering the Ocean Viking, we also continued working with Doctors Without Borders, and since 2021 we are now our partners is the International Red Cross, and the Ocean MSF. They started chartering the GeoBarents for a few years.
Yeah, we've had members of the GeoBarents on this podcast before. So periodically, I'm going to mention that we have show notes. So every podcast that I have, if you look at your phone, you will be able to see notes on your phone, and I'll have notes to previous episodes with people that we mention. And and I'm going to have stories and links to what happened to the Aquarius, because I think it was blocked, but that's a whole nother story. We don't need to go into that. I'll leave links for people to find out more about that. So that's great. Yeah, I think it's really good. I said before we started recording, I've never had anyone from SOS Mediterranee on the podcast, and you're one of the biggest organizations, so it's really good. I'm really happy that you're on talking to us, Lucille. I think it's good to get us to talk to get SOS Mediterranee on and talk about this really awful incident. Before we get into that, I think we need to explain a couple of things. I think most people that listen to this podcast often will know these things, but just in case anyone is new, I think there's some terms we should refer. First of all, can you just tell us briefly what Frontex is?
So Frontex is an agency of the European Union, and they are in charge of the surveillance of the borders. As a search and rescue organization in the Mediterranean Sea, we often see some drones and planes of Frontex. They are flying in the Mediterranean. They are aware of distress boats, and sometimes we do have some Mayday relay, but not enough. And in this specific case where I will speak about, they did see this distress boat from the first day, and then I will explain later deeper, but nothing was done, despite the fact that the relevant authorities were aware.
Yeah, Frontex is quite a big organisation, quite controversial, I think, not just for people like me, but I think it's important for people to know about that. And then this is something I mentioned on the podcast a lot, but the Central Mediterranean is divided into 4 areas. And you have the Libyan search and rescue zone, you have the Tunisian, the Maltese and the Italian. And each of those sections is supposed to be run by those countries, right? Those countries have responsibility in those parts of the Central Mediterranean to rescue people. And I think over this interview, we might mention MRCC or RCC, which are rescue coordination centres or maritime rescue coordination centres. But I think there's one in Rome, there's one in Malta and Valletta maybe. I don't know where the Tunisian and the Libyan ones are, but am I correct in what I said there?
Yes, exactly. So each search and rescue zone are supposed to be under the coordination of a center that is based most in our cases in the capital. So as you said, in the Italian search and rescue region, it will be Rome, and then Malta, Valletta, and Libya, it's Tripoli. And they are supposed to be the one coordinating launching a search and rescue operation when they are aware that there is a boat in distress. But this is the definition of the maritime law, but in fact, that is not what we are witnessing when we are at sea. Most of the time, especially in the Libyan search and rescue region, there is absolutely no coordination. People are being intercepted, and people are sometimes being left adrift and have to die, like in this specific case that we will talk about.
And I think we should mention briefly as well that, like you said, Libya is not really in charge of its own zone, or it doesn't react very well. Malta just generally ignores NGO or civilian rescue ships in its own search and rescue zone. We have an episode about 2 or 3 episodes before this episode about Malta. I encourage people to listen if they haven't heard that one.
Yes.
And Italy has its own things, which we may get into, but it generally it responds to the NGO rescuers, but then does other things, which we can get into later. But yeah. So, unless there's anything else, Lucille, I think we can get on with the main topic of this interview.
Yes, let's go. I'm ready.
Okay, so then let's talk about March the 8th, 2024. I think it was March the 8th, but it was around the beginning of March. Did it leave from Libya? I don't know. Yeah, actually, instead of me giving the background, can you tell us about this case?
So maybe I can give some background at the time. So it's March 2024, and I'm embarking for a new mission with my teammates. So we are going to leave Sicily, and we are starting patrolling for the beginning of our mission. And it's the first day of our patrol day. We already reached the Libyan search and rescue region. It's a very nice day, actually. It's early. It's not even spring yet, but it's very nice day. The sea is flat. Sun is shining, and it's early in the morning. We receive an alert from Seabird. So this plane of Sea Watch is alerting us of a boat in distress. I think it was approximately 2 to 3 hours away from our position. So we are going towards this case. And then at the time, I'm a communication coordinator, but I also participate in lookouts. So I'm the one in lookouts. It's my shift. And we are 2 people in lookouts, and while we are looking at the horizon, we are going to see very small, tiny dots. And as we know, these tiny dots are usually boat in distress. And it is indeed a rubber boat that we are sighting. And it's not the boat that was described by Seabird, because we were looking initially for a wooden boat. So this is a rubber boat. It's approximately 20 people on board. So we are calling the person who's in charge of the operation, and that person is looking through the binoculars and confirms that it's a rubber boat with 25-ish people on board, which is very surprising for us. I remember this, so the SAR team leader saying it's very weird that there are only 25 people on board. There is already a feeling that something is wrong, because usually this kind of rubber boat that departs from Libya, because indeed it departed from Libya. They usually packed with at least 80 people up to 130 or 140 people. So while we are getting ready for rescue, we already have this weird feeling that something is wrong. And when we arrive, straight away, indeed, we will get a confirmation, because there is 2 people who are unconscious in the boat, and there is this man who's standing and he's screaming like there is a lot of people who died, and he kept on saying that. So we approach this distress boat, and then we're trying to evacuate the 2 people that are unconscious. And we are going to bring them back on board on the mothership. We're going to evacuate everyone, but from the beginning, we can say without asking that they have been at sea for a while, because their skin is burned out because of the time they spend at sea with the salt and the sun. They look very exhausted, and they keep on asking for water, keep on asking this. And while they arrive on board, there are 25 people, and we are 25 in our team, and we are overwhelmed by the situation, because everyone is so weak. So there is 2 unconscious people, but everyone they are incapable of walking. They are vomiting. Some are losing consciousness. So it's the first time in the history of the Ocean Viking that we will have to activate the mass casualty plan. That is a way of operating when there is a lot of people who are in a medical emergency. It means that everyone that is in the team, even though, for instance, myself, I'm not a medic, I will have to assist. So that's what we do. And very quickly, they will tell us that actually there were not 25, but there were up to 80 people on board, and that they were adrift for almost a week, and that people died of thirst and hunger, and that they had to throw them overboard. So quite quickly, they start talking about this. Rapidly, we are going to request a medical evacuation to the Italian authorities. They will accept it, and approximately 3 hours later, there are 2 helicopters that will evacuate these 2 people who are unconscious. Unfortunately, the next day, while I'm monitoring the press, we are reading in the Italian media that one of the people didn't make it. He died while he arrived in Sicily. So at the beginning, it's a bit hard for us to talk to them, because of course they are in a very difficult place. They are, of course, physically affected, but they're also mentally very, very weak. I remember I met this 12-year-old little boy I was taking care of because the doctor asked me to. He was from Gambia, and he asked me quite quickly when he arrived on board, "Where is my sister?" And he kept on asking, "Where is my sister?" But there was no woman among the people who rescued. And he was smiling. It felt like he was in a different reality, you know. So I think that really, like, mentally, they were in a very difficult place. They for days they couldn't even go out of the shelter where they were. They couldn't even go to the toilet themselves. Like they couldn't walk, basically.
Wow.
At this moment, we had other alerts. We continue operating, and we requested a closer port because, of course, we had a port of disembarkation in Ancona, which is the northern part of Italy in the Adriatic Sea. So it's approximately 4 days of navigation. It was, I mean, in any case, it's never okay to travel that much to disembark people. But in that specific case, that was really, for us, we were very outraged of the situation because we were with people who were such in a weak situation. And at the end, the luck that we had is that we had this Italian journalist on board. She covered what was happening, and I think it helped us to have some media coverage. We had a lot of media coverage, especially in Italy, on that matter. And I think it gained a little bit of pressure on the authorities to, at the end, they accepted to evacuate these 23, because we evacuated two people 2 days before. We could evacuate them in Sicily. But we were not even allowed to go to the port. We had to do this overnight around 2 a.m. in the morning, and we couldn't even enter the port. So this boat came alongside, and we did a transshipment, but it was not even a proper boat for people who were in such a medical emergency. So we had to help them walk. It was a mixed feeling, because we were very relieved to see them leave in Sicily and not go through all this navigation until Ravenna, because we had other survivors from different rescues on board. But in the other hand, we were very upset of seeing this being done at night, when people, it seems like they wanted this to be hidden, and there was a big lack of dignity in the way it was done. But at least they were in a safe place, so we tried to keep this feeling, to keep going, because we had to take care of the other people who were on board with us. We had approximately 300 people, a lot of children. Despite the anger, despite the sadness, we had to keep on going.
It's terrible.
Yes.
that they made, because I guess you had to you had to move them from your ship onto the little boat, and that little boat would take them into the port. And I bet that was difficult for people who could barely walk, right? And that must have been really difficult operation.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it was if I recall well, it was a tugboat that came alongside. And I mean, the people from the Red Cross, they were very nice, but I mean, the boat was not meant for people who couldn't walk. So we had to help them. They had to go down from a ladder. I mean, imagine even for us that we are in good shape. This is something that is hard to do. So for someone who has been at sea for a week, seeing his family and friends dying, not being able to eat or drink properly, that was for me very unhuman thing to do.
Well, at that point, were they able to speak and were they still delirious at that point?
So we had different kind of reaction. Some of people, all of them, they stayed in the shelter lying down. They were not going out, most of them. But I had the opportunity to speak to 3 of them. And they are the one who explained me what happened. So one of the men, he was so courageous, because this man, he lost his wife and his kids. He explained me that when they left from Libya, it was the 8th of March, from a rubber boat, approximately 80 people on board, women and children on board, and very rapidly the engine is breaking down and they are adrift. They had a satellite phone with them, so they are calling alarm phone, and alarm phone is alerting the Italian all the authorities. So authorities are aware. This we know for sure, because we know alarm phone are alerting the relevant authorities, as they should do, and they are telling us that because of the lack of water and the lack of food on board, people are starting dying, and they have to throw them overboard. And that's what this man is telling me. He's telling me that his kid died after 3 days, and his wife died the next morning. What I found very hard to hear at the time is that they are telling me that they saw boats. They were waving at these boats. They were asking for help, crying for help, and no one No one stopped. No one helped. They also told me that they saw planes circling on top of them. And they were also circling at different time during this week. And they were asking for help. Again, no one came. So there was not only one person telling me, there was 3 different people telling me. So I'm starting thinking, okay, this boat was seen, but no one done anything. And that's why I reached out recently, because Frontex did an internal investigation, what is called a serious incident report, where they investigate on what happened. And this investigation confirms everything that the survivors told us. So there was this Frontex airplane that sighted this boat in distress from the first day, on the 8th of March. There is, according to the Frontex investigation, they are citing approximately 50 people. And they are alerting the authorities, but there are no SAR operation that is launched. And that result of it is that 60 people are going to die. And which is also interesting in this report is that it is also explaining that there was a boat that was in the vicinity that saw this distress boat that did a Mediterranee, but nothing happened and this boat left. Mm-hmm. And at the time it was early, like it was 8th or 9th of March. So there was still time to rescue these people. There was still time to save these people. And I mean, unfortunately, this story is not something new. It's not something that is exceptional, but for me, what was important to highlight in that is that we have the proof, and from different point of view, even from Frontex, saying that this boat was left to die. Mm. These people were left to die. I think that we need to have, we are trying to have the authorities to be accountable. Why the MRCC didn't launch any search and rescue operation when it's their duty to do so?
Yeah, that's terrible, isn't it? And like I think I read in the I'm going to link to this serious incident report, which is available on Frontex's website. And you sent me a press release. I don't know if it was you, Lucille, or someone else, but someone from SOS Mediterranee sent me a press release with the link to this thing, and I'm going to put it in the show notes so people can read it. But yeah, it was a few days ago that I last read it now. But it's can you tell us about like, because and I should also mention you mentioned Alarm Phone. Yes. So Alarm Phone is an activist or an organisation where if they receive reports of people stuck at borders, often not just in the Mediterranean but in the Atlantic and along the border in Eastern Europe often. Anyway, they will alert the authorities to people in distress. But yeah, they, like you mentioned, the authorities were told about this from the report. It looks like on the 9th. So like these people had to be at sea for a day, maybe not even that long, but then they knew. But yeah, so what was it about this report that really shocked you? You kind of already mentioned, but can you tell us?
So what shocked me the most is that everything that was written in the report is confirming what the survivors told me at the time. It means that there were planes that saw them and that boats that saw them. They asked for help, but no one came. That's because, of course, I mean, I trust the people I collect stories from, but I have not the capacity to verify everything that they say. And in this report, it proves that everything that they said that we shared at the time was true. Because this report proves that there was indeed a Frontex airplane that was there circling on top of them, and that there was a boat that we cannot see the name on the report because it has been blacked out. But there was a boat that was there. They didn't stay. They didn't rescue them. They did relay. They did a Mayday relay. But I mean, this is not enough. You don't leave a scene with people on board in a distress in the middle of the sea, and that's what shocked me the most. And of course, the lack of like no one launching a search and rescue operation. I mean, this is something that I know. They were in the Libyan search and rescue region. We know that the Libyan search and rescue coordination is not efficient. They are not doing their work like they should. They are not doing their duty. But still, this is always shocking to see that if the law of the sea was respected, these people will be alive today. And that's why our mission as testifying as a SOS Mediterranee, as a comms coordinator while I was on board, it's my duty to explain what I've seen, to see the results of the lack of coordination is people dying. And even though I didn't see these people die myself, I heard the story of their family, because they were family. They were family traveling together. They were friends traveling together. I've heard the story of this woman from Nigeria, like, because they were drinking seawater, because they were lacking of water, they're starting. One of the results of dehydration and drinking seawater is you are starting to hallucinate. And one of these women, she just jumped overboard, and she said that she was going to go back to Libya, just going swimming, which was impossible. And she probably, of course, didn't make it and die. And these are, for me, they are not just numbers. There are people with stories. I know they were from Mali, Gambia, Nigeria, Senegal, young people, a small kid of 1 year, 1 year old dying of thirst. I mean, this is the result of the lack of search and rescue coordination.
If you like what the Civil Fleet is doing and you would like to help us to continue to platform the amazing people that we have had on this podcast and to help us to continue to spread these stories, then you can help us cover our costs by going to co-fi.com/civilfleet and making a small donation there. Our costs are really, really low, but any help that we can get to keep the lights on, as it were, would be greatly appreciated. So you can do that by going to co-fi.com/civilfleet. Also, times are hard. I know people don't have much money these days. So what you can do instead, and would actually probably be a bit more useful, is you can share this podcast around. You can tell your friends about it. You can give us reviews on podcast apps and follow us on social media, like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, sorry for butting in here. We'll get back to the show.
Yeah, it's true. And you make a point in the press release you sent to me that not only did Frontex, it seems, but the report, it confirms that they were aware of this thing, were aware of the boats, and they knew that Libyans weren't coming. None of the rescue coordination centers sent anyone. And it's like it shows Europe over relying on people that they know from other things that we've seen. Are not they're relying on the Libyan coast guards to rescue in inverted commas. Yes. They're relying on them.
And what I want to add also is that we saw this boat in distress really by casualty. We were not looking for them. We saw them through our binoculars, really by chance. It means that, as you said, there were many people out in the world who knew there was this boat in distress somewhere, and no one told the NGOs, no one did anything. And we were lucky enough to see them and rescue the 24 people who were still alive. But how many boats we are not aware of, and we are not able to rescue because we have no information that are being shared. And again, we are not even supposed to be here in the first place. But I mean, since we're here, information should be shared, and they were not. Mm-hmm. And that's why we are speaking out as an organization, because we need the authorities to be accountable for the lack of responsibility and for the violation of the human rights and also the laws of the seas.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, did you say, I think what you said was that you just spotted this boat? There was no, because I as far as I'm aware, the rescue ships out at sea, like all boats, all ships at sea, they receive SOS messages if there's someone in distress, right? And I can't remember what it's called. There's a term for it, but there's some kind of radio.
Inmarsats.
Yeah. And you didn't receive anything about this boat?
No.
You just found it by chance?
We didn't receive because there was an Inmarsat call that was sent by the Italian authorities, but that was a few days after the 8th of March. We were not operating yet. So it means that our boat was in Syracuse at the time. We were not even at sea. And then later, probably was the 9th of March, this other boat cited this distress case. They, according to the report, they relayed a mayday, but we were not in the vicinity, so we were not able to receive this mayday relay. It's only approximately, I think we might have left the port on the 11th of March, and we entered the Libyan search and rescue region early on the 13th, and we were not aware of this boat at all. Mm-hmm. We never received any alert from anyone, but we found out later there was an AP case, but from a week ago, so we were not aware of this AP case, and it's matched the case. And later on, 6 months later, Alan Fon did an open letter to the Italian authorities because they did all this timeline where they did an amazing work showing everything that happened when they received the calls from the distress boats, and then when they relayed it, and when the Italian authorities were aware, the Libyan authorities were aware, and then when finally we found them by casualty, by sighting them from our binoculars.
And like you say, there's a lot of boats that leave that we don't know anything about, right? Like the civil fleet is really small. I mean, there's quite a lot of ships now, I suppose, but the Mediterranean is massive. And there's people like leaving Libya, leaving Tunisia and other places that we don't know about, that are sinking and dying and we have no idea about.
Yeah, exactly. There are so many stories that we are not aware of. And that's why when there is one that we can prove what we are saying, we are really trying to speak out, because this is for the sake of the people who die, for their memory, but it's for everyone that don't have this proof that they died in the Mediterranean Sea without a trace. And as you said, the Mediterranean Sea is so big, and it's true, a lot of rescue ships, but they are not all operational, and at least not at the same time. And even if you look really closely, not so much are operational, and even they were all operational, it's not even enough to cover the needs, especially when you don't have, again, we come back to coordination. Because if you are a rescue ship, but you have no information on where you have to go, how can you be efficient? And that's the frustration that we get when we are on board, is that we have the feeling that we are looking, like we are blind. We are blind, and we are just, of course, we have a strategy, of course, according to the departure, to the weather. But this is we are trying our best, but it would be even more efficient if we knew when there were distress boats, and that the coordination center would help us by sharing the information. There were less people at risk and less people dying. Mm.
Yeah, it's a really horrible case. But like you said, I've heard other cases very similar to this one. These things happening all the time, and the authorities are not doing what they should. And I say this every time. I think it's great. In a way, I think it's great that you and other people and other organisations are in the Mediterranean saving people's lives, but you shouldn't be there, right? Europe has all the resources, all the money, and all the technology to do this. They don't need to be relying on civilian NGOs, do they?
Oh, exactly. I mean, in the first place, as we said, I mean, civilian organizations shouldn't be the one covering the gap of the authorities. We are trying our best, but it's very concerning that is the responsibility of civilians to do search and rescue. It shouldn't be that way. We are trying to cover this gap, which is huge. And I mean, my happiest day would be the day we don't need to exist anymore.
Yeah, that would be good. I could do a different podcast then. I could do something, talk about something I enjoy. Well, I do enjoy this, but you know what I mean. I could focus on something fun.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. So, has there been? I think when did they put this out? What's the date on this report? The Frontex put out this report on. Did they release it on?
No, this report was not publicly shared. I mean, it's public. The report is public on their website, but I mean, they of course don't promote this kind of report. We were aware because Frontex had to do this investigation. They asked many different people information, including SOS Mediterranee, because we were part of this story. So we gave them everything that we had, all the information that we had regarding this case. And we were aware that this was about to be released, and it was released in May. And we decided as a communication team to alert the media. Even though, I mean, as we said, it's not unfortunately an unusual story, but it's something that we want to show that the stories of the survivors were true. That what we said at the time and what we were suspecting, but we were not able to really go very, very, very far on the accusation because we had no proof. But today, this report proves that no search and rescue operation was launched, and the Frontex and the authorities, maritime authorities, were aware.
Yeah, and it says actually on the report that there was that it's likely a violation of fundamental right to life was violated in this case. Do you think? Do you know if there's been? I mean, I should probably ask Frontex this, but do you know if there's been any accountability? Has anyone? What do you know that's happened since this report was released on their website very quietly?
To be honest, I have no clue. I don't know what is the outcome once this internal investigation is done. I don't know. This is something you could ask them. But I think this is for us a great tool. Even though if you read the report, there is many information that we don't have access to. But still, I think it's something we should share. And thank you for shedding light on that story. And
I can't remember at the time, and maybe I wrote about this at the time, but I'm not sure. The Civil Fleet, it's not just a blog, it's a podcast. It's something I say in every episode. Yeah. It's not just a podcast, it's also a blog. And so I'll have links to this on there. But maybe at the time I wrote about it, I can't remember now. March 2004 feels like a million years ago. So you at that time you also had, did you say 200 other people on the boat or something? You had quite a lot.
Yeah, so when we did this rescue was the first one, and when we found this boat, we already knew about another boat in distress because because Seabird sent us an alert, relayed an alert. So we went to the second distress boat. That was a wooden boat. And then we rescued them, and then we did 2 other rescues. There was another wooden boat and another rubber boat. So we had over 300 people on board. We, as I said earlier, we evacuated the 23 people from the first rescue because they were in a weak stage that for us, it was really medically not possible to bring them up to Ancona. And we continued to, once we transshipped them in Sicily, we we continue because the Italian authorities didn't request us to disembark the rest of the people we had on board in Sicily. So we had to navigate through Ancona, and we disembarked the rest of the people in Ancona at the time.
So was this before the Pianti-Diosi decree? Pianti-Diosi.
No, so this story was after the Pianti-Diosi decree. So Pianti-Diosi decree started in the end of 2022, and that was in 2024. So unfortunately, we were already navigating through distance port and Ravenna, Ancona, and that was unfortunately already our reality for a while.
So I'll just say that the Pianti-Diosi decree, hopefully I'm saying it right, is named after Italy's interior minister. I think it's Matteo Pianti-Diosi. And the decree is like, you have to, every rescue ship, the civilian rescue ships, when they find someone, usually Italy will assign them a port very far north in Italy, and it's ridiculous. We had an episode, I think it was 2 or 3 episodes before, I'll have it in the show notes, and that was about this. We focused on the Pianti-Diosi decree and how it affects other ships. So that is it's crazy.
It's crazy, especially when you do this kind of rescues where you know that there are people out there in the same situation. Probably you don't know and you will never know. But while you are going back north, when you are going back to the north of Italy, and then it's 4 days up, but it means 4 days down. So it means a week when you are not operating and you know that there are people who are probably adrift, people who are thirsty, people who are hungry, and Frontex is here and see them, authorities see them, and no one's there. So this is, as a crew member, is very, very painful to know that you're leaving the air operation and there is nothing you can do because you need to comply with the request of the authorities. You need to do it because we are always operating according to maritime law, so we have no other option. But it's really heartbreaking knowing that we are living and people are in need.
And so I think we could keep talking about this, Lucille, but in the interest of time, maybe we should go towards the end of the podcast here. But before, because there's some questions I'd like to ask everyone at the end of the podcast. But before that, was there anything else you wanted to say about this case or rescues in general in the Mediterranean?
I would say that what I really learned while working in the Mediterranean Sea is that I've seen so many human rights violations, and I feel very outraged of the silence, and I feel very outraged of the authorities not being accountable, people not being accountable for what they're doing. But also what I would like to say is that as my mission as communication person is to collect stories of people, and I've met among the people that we rescued one of the most inspiring people. And that's, I think, I don't know if these people who are supposed to share information are here listening to us, but I hope that one day they understand that these people are humans like us. They are very amazing people with dreams, with incredible stories, very strong ones. And I hope that one day they understand this, they will perhaps change the way they behave and the absence of humanity that they're having.
Yeah, I hope so too. So this is a question I ask everyone at the end of the podcast, and I hope you can give me some kind of hope or an optimistic answer. But how do you see the future of the Mediterranean and borders and, people on the move and all this kind of thing in Europe? So for me, it seems very bleak, but I don't know, maybe you have some sort of hope for the future or not?
Since I've been working in the Mediterranean, I unfortunately haven't seen yet a situation moving in a positive way. But what I do think is that people on the move. It is part of our history and our identity as humans. And this is something that will continue, especially with climate change, with conflict and wars. And hopefully with our work with people like us engaged to tell stories, to humanize, I do hope that at some point we will have a collective change. And I, even though I see it, maybe the change will be slow. I think that if we keep on shedding light, if we keep on teaching the youth that this is how we should live all together, then I can see maybe the lights and the hope.
That was a good answer, Lucille. I hope so too. That's why I do this podcast, in the hope that someday someone listens, or like enough pressure builds that people react properly. But you never know until we get there, I suppose. Hopefully it will change. The future will not be so bleak. Well, Lucille, that was a really great interview. I'm going to look into this some more, this case. Hopefully some other journalists are also looking into this case and bringing more attention to it, because it really, really needs more attention. This particular case, like we said, is just like many, many others. But here we have, that Frontex actually saying we've made a mistake here. Well, maybe that's not quite what they say, but they said it's likely that the fundamental right to life was violated. So will you please keep me in touch, keep me up to date with this case if you hear anything else, or if I hear anything, then we should be in touch, Lucille.
Well, thank you very much for inviting us, and thank you very much for giving us the chance to share again this story and speak about these people and speak about what is happening in the Mediterranean Sea. Thank you for your energy that you put in this podcast. I think that this kind of initiative are very important, and even if it's one seed that you're putting in one hand, it's already a victory.
That's good. I like that. Thanks very much, Lucille.
Thank you.
Okay, that was episode 75 of the Civil Fleet podcast. Thank you very, very much for listening. Thanks again to Lucille for coming on the podcast and for bringing this story to my attention. Thanks to SOS Mediterranee and everyone who works on the Ocean Viking for not only being amazing and doing things like saving lives, but also for speaking with me and putting this interview together. Also, I want to thank Alex Walker for the editing he did in this episode. He's done a really good job at sorting out the EQ and the sound quality. So thanks to him. And he also did this in the last episode 74, and I forgot to thank him. So sorry about that, Alex, and thanks for doing it again. Alright, so before the end of the episode, why don't you go and check out the Civil Fleet blog. You can go to civilfleet.com and you can find lots of stories on there. You will also find the show notes, not only on your phone but also on the website if you go there and check it out. And you can also read this report by Frontex that we've been talking about in this episode on there too. Do give us a share on social media, give us a like on whatever thing you're using this on, you're listening to this on. You can share it around with your friends, give us reviews on podcast apps and all that kind of thing. That would really help us out. You can also give us some money if you would like to help us to continue to platform the amazing people that we have on this podcast. You can do that by going to ko-fi.com/civilfleet, and you can make a small donation there or a monthly donation if you like as well, and you'll get access to a bonus episode there. That is it for now. We'll hopefully have another episode coming soon, and cheers. Until next time, bye bye.